Welcome to Dynamic Thriving Podcast. I am your host, Marianne Pack, spiritual guide into all things life transformational. And on today's podcast, we're welcoming our guest, Robin Finney of wanderingant.com. Welcome, Robin. I'm so happy you are here with me today.
Thank you, Marianne. I'm excited to be here.
I am so glad you're here. This is going to be such a good conversation. So let's begin by setting our intention. And with today's topic about being your own oracle, we want to set our intention to commit to creating a relationship with our intuition. Because our intuition, our inner being, is who leads us into being that oracle and being understanding the messages of what we receive. So let's just set our intention that we commit to building that relationship with who we really are, with our intuition, with our inner source. So let's hold that in our mind as we go through this podcast. So remember, source knows no bounds. Energy knows no bounds. The energy of this conversation continues forevermore. It doesn't ever diminish. So whenever you listen to this podcast will be perfect timing, and the message will be received by your soul. And just let that be your intention as we go through this podcast. So I just wanted to jump right in, Robin, and ask you, who is Robin Finney and what good things do you bring to the world?
Yeah, it's funny. I think I'm like, who is Robin Finney? Who am I? I am, just by what I do and who I am in the world, is I'm an oracle, an intuitive and authenticity guide. And I support others in learning more about themselves and finding the answers that are deep within them and gaining clarity through oracle card readings and intuitive sessions. And it's all included together, but within that also, I'm a world traveler, I'm an international model, an author, and an ant extraordinaire. I'm known as Wandering Ant. So I travel all over the world and I bring my gifts with me wherever I go, and I'm inspired and I learn every single day, no matter where I am.
Absolutely. Yes, life is an ever learning journey, and I love it. I have such a thirst for knowledge and wisdom and putting it all together so that it creates that ball of wisdom that we are. So you're talking about your wandering ant. Tell us just a little bit about how you came about that name, that title.
So it actually started as a blog in 2017. I had been wanting to start a blog for a while, and I started thinking like, okay, what do I want to call it? And I decided, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to combine my two loves, which is wanderlust and being an ant. And so that came about. And when I first started my blog, I had the intention of inspiring other ants and writing about my adventures with my littles and what it's like. And then it kind of just transformed into me writing more about experience and life lessons and everything I learned from travel and the struggles of just daily life. And it's morphed since then. And so I then kind of transformed that into being my website and my brand. And I've just continued to carry it with me because it's near and dear to my heart.
Absolutely. I love that. You just built in all that passion in one beautiful package. And like she mentioned, she's an international model. So if you have the opportunity to go to her website, wanderingant.com, you will find some beautiful photographs that she has taken around the world in her photo shoots, and you will thoroughly enjoy those. And so our topic today is Be your own oracle, a guide to living authentically. So what exactly is an oracle? What I because I love this, and this is near to my heart because I also am an oracle for my spirit guides. And so what is an oracle for you?
Yes. So an oracle for me is someone who receives and channels messages. So I receive messages from the universe, from the divine source, God, wherever, within my own intuition, and they're channeled through me. So, and it's from different, I mean, it's different ways. It's through my being in nature, it's through
Mhm.
receiving just downloads and messages. It's through the support of oracle cards. So really an oracle it's kind of like a conduit. It's a person who receives information and then relays that information outward.
I like that description because it's definitely being an oracle for my spirit guides, the many. It And it comes in different ways, don't you think, Robin? Like you said, it was out in nature. Because sometimes I'm out in nature, sometimes I'm in quiet meditation, sometimes I'm driving, of all things. But it's just like when I'm really tuned in
Yeah.
and I'm in an appreciative feeling, or I'm feeling very satisfied, messages come in, or feelings. Don't you also get sensations in your body sometimes when you feel a message getting ready to come in?
Yes. Yeah. Definitely a sensory person, and
Mhm.
I have the gift of sensation. So I feel a lot of vibrations. It's generally a lot of times it's in my hands. And then my um left shoulder will twitch, and that's kind of my nudge telling me like if I'm
Mhm.
on the right path, or if I have a message and spirit's really wanting me to get it. It's kind of like confirming like, yes, this is the right avenue for
Mhm.
you. And so it's really cool. So I always tell people to really honor your body and take care of it and tune in and listen to it, because our body really does have all the answers that we need. It
That's
will tell us when something is off. It will tell us when we're on the right path, or when we maybe need to realign. So it's definitely in those arenas. And also sometimes like just, I mean, 2 nights ago, I woke up in the middle of the night and I had a clear download for my why for my business. And
Oh.
it was just right there. And I was like, okay, that's it. That's beautiful. And I wrote it down. And so it's little things like that. Sometimes it will just come
Mhm.
and you're just like, oh, that's it. And it feels like if people are sitting here listening and they're thinking, well, how do you know that that's something that's sourced or from your intuition or from the universe or from God or wherever,
Mhm.
and not just your brain, like your mind telling you?
Mhm.
And for me, it's always like, I don't know, it comes across as a download. It's just like this deep knowing, and the voice is different. Like I can generate the voice in my head as being one that likes to pick things apart and analyze and
Yeah.
rationalize. And so, and this one is just clear as day. It's like, boom, this is it. Here's your answer. And it's more encouraging and loving and kind.
Yes.
So I would say start noticing the differences in the messages you receive so you can distinguish the difference.
I totally agree with that because, um, and just as you talked about your left shoulder, it's my right hand. It gives a little jerk or something when you say that. I just remember, oh yeah, I do get that pulsation in that right hand. And but um, even the noticing sensations in your body, or that this is what's so important about building a relationship. Because when you build a relationship with a dear friend or a family member, you recognize their voice. If they pick up the phone and call you, they don't have to identify themselves. This is cousin Joan calling. It's not that. It's that you recognize their voice, the tone, the quality, the sound. And also I noticed that especially when I was first starting out, giving messages from the many to someone who asked a question, so many times it would sound like my voice, my language.
Mhm.
And then they reassured me because I questioned them. Is this
Yep.
really you, or is this my thoughts? Because it sounds a lot like my thoughts. And yet sometimes it would be so inspirational. I thought, well, that definitely wasn't me because I didn't think of that. But they reassured me that, look, we speak your language. We're in
Yeah.
communication with you. That's why this is so special. So I definitely understand that you have to build the relationship, and that's spending time asking questions, because we can ask questions and we can expect to receive an answer. Our inner beings, our intuition is just chomping at the bit to communicate with us.
Yeah.
So it is available to all of us. Robin and I are not something special. There's not extra woo woo that we have that you don't have. We all have this. Don't you think, Robin? Everybody
Yeah,
has this.
absolutely. And it's different. It's different for everyone. Like some people do feel it like in their body and they have this like clear knowing. And then other people, they
Yeah.
may see signs outside and in nature, or they may even be watching TV and hear like a message. And then they turn on the radio and they hear the message again, or they turn on the radio and this unexpected song from nowhere comes on. And so it can look different. It doesn't all look one way. And the way to really start recognizing it is, like you said, to be with yourself, sit with yourself through meditation and breath work and journaling and spending time in nature and anywhere where you can just really quiet your mind and listen.
Mhm.
That's the key, is allowing yourself to be in a space of stillness where you can listen and be open to receive. And I think that's the other key too, is you have to be open and willing
Yes.
to receive, because otherwise it's like I say, one of my mantras or golden nuggets out there is that signs are all around us. We just have to open our eyes and see them.
Absolutely.
And there's a willingness there. And sometimes we look at like, well, how come Marianne's out there and she's getting signs all the time
Mhm.
and things are flowing for her, but it's not working for me? Well, maybe stop and take a pause and look at how you're approaching it. You're approaching it through
Mhm.
doubt. You're approaching it through this sense of like, I don't really believe that there's a message for me. And so when you can just kind of set that aside for a moment, it may not go away forever. Set it aside, because I know mine doesn't go away. It comes back. And then just like allow yourself to be and receive and just listen and see what shows up.
Mhm. Yes, it's definitely a stillness that we have to embody, because our inner being doesn't scream at us. It's a whisper. So when is the most beneficial time to hear a whisper?
When
It's in
you're quiet.
silence. It's
Yeah.
in quiet. It's in, there's not a lot of distractions going on. You're not talking, when you're listening for a whisper from someone and they're trying to communicate something, yeah, it's definitely that stillness. And do you see your messages, it kind of changes, because I am very, susceptible to, excuse me, animal spirits. So either I'll get a vision in my mind's eye in meditation or whatever of an animal, or physically I see an animal out.
Yeah.
I remember one time when sometimes a lot of times if I see an animal on the road hit or something, I thank that animal for its life and that the message and the life that it's lived. And so there happened to be, it's funny because there happened to be a skunk that was hit at the end of our driveway. We live out in the country, so we have lots of wildlife. And I just kind of got, oh, there's a skunk. And I just went on my merry way, not realizing that was another message from my inner being. And so the next day, it had to just be a little bit louder. So this little mama, we have a beautiful front porch, and I sit out there. We sit out there in the morning and sip coffee and just visit. And I happened to be out there earlier than when my husband got up, and here comes Mama Skunk and Baby Skunk waddling around, crossed over in front of me right on the porch. And I went, okay, I got it. Don't bring him any closer. So sometimes, and so I had to go look up skunk, what the skunk meant, because it was a message and it was perfect. It was perfect what I needed at that time. And yet other times I might see a crystal in my mind's eye, or I see a feather, a few days in a row. Or don't you think there's just these messages and they actually change, kind of according to what we need to hear at the time?
Oh,
Can you hear me?
yes. I wanted to make
Okay.
sure. Yes, and that's one of the things with signs, and especially oracle cards in that realm. We haven't really talked about oracle cards yet, but oracle cards they have messages, and there's many different oracle decks, and each one may have a theme or a different style to it, and they include different messages. And when you get into pulling oracle cards, sometimes you can get the same message over and over again. And it's like really trying to get your attention, like, hey, this is something for you to focus on. And it can be the same thing, like you said, with seeing numerous skunks. It's like the first time you kind of brush it off, oh, that's cute, or oh, that's sad. Skunk that died. And then shows up again. And then you're like, okay, maybe there's something to this.
Yes.
So that's the moment to start paying attention and noticing, like, isn't that interesting? And I always say explore with curiosity. Look at it through curiosity rather than, because most of the time we are carrying on our rational, analytical brain. And so we want to pick things apart and kind of say, oh, that doesn't mean anything. That's just a coincidence. But what if it's not? And explore from curiosity. And with that, just ask questions like, isn't that interesting that this is showing up for me again, or that I'm receiving this message again? What could it mean that I'm getting this message again? Why am I getting this message again? And just start playing around with it and asking those questions of yourself. And then again, just be open your awareness and allow yourself to receive the answers.
I definitely, I like that. I like how you put that. So when did you realize that you had this intuition, this intuitive gift in using oracle cards? Because I do want to move now into talking about oracle card use.
Yeah. So I didn't have much of a knowledge around them. I think oftentimes we hear cards and we think tarot cards, like that's more common. I feel people know more about those. And they're both ways to receive information. The difference is tarot is set. It's a set deck, 78 cards, major, minor, arcanas. Whereas oracle cards, they can all be different. And they include, like I said before, different messages. And I was on a retreat 2 years ago, I believe, or almost, I guess it was about 3 years ago, actually. And I received my first deck of oracle cards. And so when I got home, I remember sitting on the couch and I pulled a card. And then my sister was like, hey, you want me to pull a card for you? And I just had this knowing. I was like, I just kind of knew what card I was going to pull for her. And I pulled a card, and it was it. I pulled the card and it freaked me out. I threw my deck down. I was like, okay, that's weird. That's weird. How does it know? And And then I just started noticing things like that again. It was kind of like I would either get the same card over and over, or I began to get this knowing within me, even when I would pull a card sometimes and know this message isn't for me. And then I'll never forget, like you and we were on a retreat. I
Mhm.
think you were on this retreat, maybe. Anyway, in California. And I went back to my room and I just felt like this pull to go towards my cards. And I think my cards may have even like moved, like I hit something and the cards kind of fell and it was like, oh, okay, they're calling me. And so I pulled a card and I was like, this does not align with me at all, but okay, got it, thanks. And then we go back into session and one of the women in our group starts sharing, and all of a sudden it was like, oh my goodness, that message was for her.
Wow.
And so I remember like speaking up and saying like, I don't really know about this, but I just pulled a card and can I read the message? And I shared it and she just like started crying because it was spot on for her. And then things like that started happening again. I'm a world traveler, as I said, and so I was traveling last year in Albania, and I always have my card, a couple decks with me, and an app on my phone. And
Mhm.
I was with new friends, like strangers before we had just met. And we started traveling together, and I pulled cards for them, and they were spot on. And I didn't even know these people. I didn't know what was going on in their life, and so it was little things like that kept showing up. And then I realized I was like, oh, okay, there might be something here, but I still kind of discounted it until it was one of my friends told me like, Robin, you should explore this
Mhm.
as part of your business. You really have a gift here. And it's taken me a while. Like this year's really the first year that I've like owned it and claimed myself as an oracle and an intuitive. Um, and it's really cool though, because now that I have claimed this part of myself, I've been able to just really trust that the messages are going to come through, and trust myself more, and really recognize that oracle cards are a tool. And I already have the answers within me. And I'm using the oracle cards as a tool to support those answers in coming forth, because so many times I'll be on calls with people or sessions with people, and I will know what message is going to be pulled before I pull it.
Oh, yes.
And so for me, it's just been really like learning to trust
Yeah.
own knowledge and wisdom and intuition within myself. And I've just continued to use the oracle cards as kind of they're just they act as a balance and a reassurance for other people, because sometimes people need that proof and that evidence. So they work kind of hand in hand.
Absolutely. And the thing is, like Robin was talking about, there are so many different oracle card decks. And the thing is, you have to look for ones that resonate with your soul. Because I have many, many card decks, and I know Robin does too. And we don't use the same one for every person or every purpose. Even within a session, she may change card decks because she feels pulled for this particular person to this card deck, but yet this person had this card deck. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, I do these really fun girls' night inward oracle parties,
Yes.
and they're virtual. And I'll bring multiple decks, and I just feel into the person. And there it is different. Like sometimes I'm doing a party and it's the same deck for everyone. And then sometimes it's each person has a different deck. And sometimes it's like the same card will be pulled for numerous people. And there's like an alignment that's happening between
Oh,
everyone. So it's really cool. And I just trust that that's where I really trust my inner guidance system to show me which deck, which messages want to come forth for each person.
yes. Yes, I agree. And because it's just like you said, sometimes you'll pull a card and you'll go, oh, that message isn't for me. that's definitely for someone else. And just be sensitive, because when you have those moments of, oh, that particular card is not for me, someone will cross your path. You will rendezvous with someone in the next few hours or the next day, and that's their message. And you have the privilege of sharing that with them.
Yeah.
So keep mindful that not every oracle card is for you, even though you happen to be pulling it.
Right.
That really, it could be a message for someone else that you're being called to share with.
And I always say, just to add with that too, and this is something I teach in my course, but to always ask permission. Like, I never pull a card for someone without asking them first. Or if I do receive a message and I'm clear it's not for me and it is for someone else, I will contact the person and let them know, like, hey, I received a message and I feel like it's for you. Would you be willing? Are you interested in hearing it? And so I always say, please ask permission before you just go out spatting, sharing
Yes,
messages with people, because again, people have to be willing and open to receive.
absolutely. It's definitely, you've got to find out whether they're even receptive. Um, because you can always just, if they're not, that's okay too.
Yeah.
Because you can always hold that love for them and the message that they just receive it when they are in a receiving mode.
Right.
And source, like I said, source knows no bounds. This energy knows no bounds. You don't have to worry and fret that you can't get your message through, because source will do it one way or the other. You just hold them in your love, and source will take care of the rest. So don't fret about that at all. So what benefits do you see your clients receiving, like when they have an oracle reading with you?
Yes. So my why for doing what I do is to create safe spaces for people to connect on a deeper level, whether to themselves or others, so that they can be seen, heard, and validated and received with love.
Mhm.
And that's really at the platform of all of my work. And that's my core belief, is that we all want to be seen, heard, and validated. And it's through sharing and being vulnerable and being authentic that we're able to receive those messages. And so when I'm doing a session with a client, I really make sure that I'm creating an environment that feels safe and warm and loving,
Yes.
for the people who are working with me. And we set an intention for how we want the session to go and what messages we want to come forth. And then I channel the messages, and then we break it down and look at, like, how does that resonate with you? How does this speak to you? What areas of your life are you noticing? Do you feel like this is for right now, or do you sense this is something in the past? And it really is a time for people to just be seen that way on a different level.
Mm.
And I love, that's what I love about these sessions, because they really are a reflection. I like to say that oracle cards are a mirror reflecting back to you the messages that you already know deep within you,
Yes.
but maybe you just haven't been willing to hear them.
Yes, I agree. And I think that's why oracle cards are so wonderful, because those messages, those images are, they're speaking to our soul. It's not to our logical mind, because that's what tends to get in our way. You know, the mean inner girl, or the doubt, or the fears, or the worry, or the not enoughness, or whatever happens to be, a limiting belief or thought. But that's why these cards are so precious, because the energy speaks to your soul. The message, that's what we're talking about when it resonates. That's when you feel that inner tug and knowing that, oh, this is for me. This aligns with this that's going on. Or like she said, it could be something that you're clearing from past, or, um, something that will move you forward. So,
And sometimes in the moment it may not resonate, and it's because it's something you're stepping into
Oh,
and it
yes.
makes sense. And that could, like you said before, it could be minutes, hours, the same day, or it could be a few days or weeks. And then all of a sudden it clicks and you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense now. That message I received before, I can see it now.
And don't you think sometimes, I mean, it seems like for me, um, it gets deeper. It's like grows
Yeah.
because sometimes you receive the message first and there's something that clicks, but then later something else is deeper or richer that it speaks to again and maybe again. Do you see that happening in your experience?
Yes, absolutely. And it is, it's like layers. Sometimes you'll get like the surface part of it. And I'll have clients who they'll come back to me later and say, okay, Robin, this I thought the message was telling me this, which it was telling you that part, but now I see that it's so much deeper or so much
Yeah.
bigger, and this happened, can you believe it? And so it's really cool to see how that is, and it really is a big lesson in trust and timing, like trusting in divine timing and trusting that the message will come forth and reflect back to you when the time is right.
I love that you keep bringing up that it's trust. It's about trust because we have to trust ourselves to know that we have an inner being, that we have a connection, that we have a relationship, trusting our inner being for the message, trusting the process, trusting. I love that you keep referring to it as a it's a trusting process. It's definitely a practice in trusting. Do you have you found it as you're starting to spend more time with oracle cards and teaching people how to use them, do you find it difficult for people to start learning how to interpret their cards messages, or are they kind of leaning into it and actually it's sinking in and they're actually getting a benefit of starting to learn how to be their own oracle? Because since this is our topic, we want to learn how to do this for ourselves, not only get messages from our coaches and our oracles, but for ourselves.
Yeah, so it's interesting. It really depends. Like I see a variety because, and this is why I'm teaching others how to be their own oracle and use oracle cards as a tool, because a lot of times, and you may never reach that point where you want to have your own relationship with with a deck, and you may just want somebody else to
Hmm.
channel the messages for you.
Right.
But again, it goes back to that trust, because sometimes it's like I have people come to me because there's a level of trust with me
Yes.
and a trust in the messages that come forth. And so it's like, okay, I can see this. Somebody else is showing it to me. They don't even know me at this level, and here this message is coming and it resonates with where I am. And yet, with maybe with yourself, you're not at that point or that level of trust to where you may, in your own practice, pull the same card that I pull for you. However, it may not resonate with you in the same moment because you're not trusting that maybe the message, no, that's not for me. But yet if I were to do it for you or someone else, then
Yes.
you may. And so that's what I'm finding is there's really a different level to it. And I do have people who they'll ask me, like I do remote card readings, and I have different offerings, and one of them is just a virtual, like you text me a question, I pull a card and send you the message back, and that's it.
Mm.
um and and then my one-on-one sessions, it's like I'm actually interpreting the messages for you and diving deeper into them. And so I do have people sometimes who take on the remote ones and they'll come back and they'll say, okay, actually, can you interpret this for me, because I'm not quite understanding
Oh.
the message. And so again, it has to be, it's a practice like anything. It's you're learning to receive the messages and hear them, like openly hear them for yourself. And so there's different levels, and that's why I offer different levels of service, because everybody's in a different space with it.
That's true. That's very true. And do you think too, I know for myself, I have had Robin pull oracle cards for me. So I'm getting ready to ask her if she'll pull a card for us today, and give us an oracle reading. But for myself, even though I am an oracle, there are some times where I even feel stuck for myself for getting an answer. So I still, even as a coach, even as an oracle, I still like to go to another oracle to have a reading done, because I need that support.
Yes.
Even though I am who I am and I do what I do, many times we still have those little blind spots that we can't quite see through, and we still need someone else to help us interpret.
Yes.
So I know I have been in programs with Robin as she pulls oracle cards. So I know how important it is for everyone, no matter where you are on the spectrum of receiving messages from your intuition. So would you be gracious to pull us a card? That would be wonderful if you'll just pull a card for us, tell us what it is, what deck you got it from, and then the message, and then your interpretation.
Yes, absolutely. So this is one of my favorite decks for when I want just like a happier, like more, just, they're still deep, but they're playful. These messages a little more playful. It's from Love Your Inner Goddess from Elena Fairchild. I have several of her decks. So I'm going to pull a card from that. And there's multiple ways when I'm pulling cards, but I always, like I said earlier, I feel a lot of sensations in my hands. And so when I'm channeling, I allow myself to just really drop in and feel into my body and allow my body to support in pulling a card. So today I'm going to pull a card for your audience, everyone who's listening. And wherever you are as you're listening, I invite you to just tune in for a moment, and everybody hold space that the message that's meant to come forth today will come forth. And so the message that I have today is good witch.
Ooh.
And it's not magic. So it's time for you to use your words. Speak up for what you want. If someone is saying negative things about you, or you are thinking negative thoughts about yourself or anyone else, don't believe them and don't sink to that level by lashing out. Instead, speak the goodness of beautiful truth that you want to affirm right now. Use the positive power of your words, thoughts, and intentions to override and replace the meanness, fear, hate, or jealousy of anyone else. The goodness in you is more powerful than the badness in anyone or anything else. And the spiritual guidance. You can create your own magic. You have a special gift for weaving loving spells of healing. With clear intention, channeling your emotional energy, and using your words, you can create joy and happiness in your heart that touches the hearts of those around you. You are a good witch. And when you use your inner power to increase love in the world, your power will continue to increase. As we grow in power, we sometimes forget to use it wisely. We may use our power to speak ill of another, to persuade others into negative thinking through gossip, or to allow our own insecurities to make us behave disrespectfully to ourselves or someone else. Misuse of power doesn't feel good for us or anyone else. The universe cannot uplift us into all that we dream of experiencing if we are using our power to pull ourselves and others down. It is better and more fun to use your power for loving and positive purpose as you honor freedom of choice for yourself and others. The good witch is a wise witch. She creates beautiful energy which others can benefit from if they so choose. Forgive yourself if you've lost your way, if you forgot your true inner power, or tried to make someone else's decisions for them. Let that go now and come back to your heart with peace and happiness. It's time to weave your loving magic in the world.
I love that.
So I would ask, if we're in a session right now, like for you, how does this message speak to you and resonate?
Yeah. Definitely with like focusing on, because we are powerful creators. We are creating our lives, but we're also in that we're still touching other people's lives. So to understand that my powerful words, my powerful aura, my powerful presentation to the world is affecting not just myself but others, and to hold that into my heart, to know that I want to be impacting the world for good and for uplifting. So yeah, to hold that power, and know that we are powerful
And
is,
we all are healers too. It's
yes,
like you said at the beginning, we're not special, you and I. It's not like we were just like
no,
born with these special gifts. We all have gifts within us. And it looks different for everyone. You and I have just chosen to make these gifts as part of our profession and out in the world. Whereas other people, it's like you have these gifts within you. You have the ability to be a healer to yourself and others and to the world. And it shows up in different ways. It shows up perhaps how you interact with others. It shows up how you write, how you think, how you just be in your everyday life. And so that's the beauty of this message, is that we can all create our own magic. We
yes,
all have the ability within us, and it starts with our words and our thoughts about ourselves, about others, and how we interpret that to the world. And so, I mean, for me, I can easily get lost in like, oh, I haven't heard from this friend in a while, or they haven't reached out to me, they haven't checked on me, or whatever. And then I make it mean something. And I create this story in my head that sends me down in this negative, judgmental spiral, and it's not conducive for myself or for the other person.
mhm,
And so words are powerful, our thoughts are powerful. So just allow yourself to, don't just shove them away, but really allow yourself to notice, like, oh, here I am thinking this thought again,
mm,
and allow yourself to be with it, and even to reach out, like if you are having thoughts about someone, or clear it up, like reach out to them, or do what you need to do for yourself, and just know that you have the power within you to heal whatever is going on in your mind and in your heart.
absolutely. I love that. We definitely are all, I feel like we're all teachers, uplifters, and healers, whether we identify that as a job, or but it's just living life.
Right.
You're always going to want to uplift people. You're always going to be teaching something, whether it's just by the example that you're living. You're still teaching others about possibilities, and being an uplifter and a healer, because it's definitely so much about, even for myself as a young woman being very sick, and then understanding I was creating that sickness with my crappy attitude and my complaining, not understanding it was affecting my body. So it actually, once I started transforming my thoughts and my beliefs, and making feeling good my number one priority, and wanting to live in joy, because I knew there had to be something better than constant complaining. And then to be able to step into this, this healing that my attitude brought, my power, my gifts created healing in my life. And just that example, living that example before others, is still teaching and healing and uplifting.
Yes.
So, so how, Robin, can people work with you? Because I know you have a new course that you've created. I know you have Girls Night Inward that I want you to tell us about, because I have been on one of these Girls Night Inwards with Robin, and it was exciting to see everyone get their card pulled, a personal card within a group of ladies who got together. So tell us how people can work with you.
Yes, absolutely. So first off, you can go to my website and it will take you, click on the services tab, and you can see all of the various offerings that I have. And for specifically with Oracle card readings, I offer one-on-one deep clarity sessions, which are more of a deep dive. These sessions are
Mm.
longer, generally 90 minutes, and we really take an area of your life and break it down, and it's pull multiple card messages. Um, and then I offer like the remote ones. If you're just wanting something quick, you can text me and I'll send you a message. And I just launched a new course on teaching others how to use Oracle cards in your everyday life to make better decisions, gain clarity, and receive answers to the deepest questions within your heart. And it's super fun and interactive. You have the opportunity to practice pulling cards with your peers, with me, and just really learning and understanding Oracle cards, and even how to go about choosing a deck, and what to do once you get one. And then finally, the Girls Night Inward Oracle parties, which are so great, and they just light me up every time. It's a group of women come together virtually on Zoom, and everyone has an opportunity to ask a question and receive a message that they're meant to hear at that time. And it's a beautiful way to connect with others on a deeper level, whether it's with something with your clients or your inner circle, your girlfriends, your coworkers. It can be multiple things, or just like a group of people in your book club, or if you're in a Facebook group and
No.
you don't even know everyone, but you just want to host so that you can get to know everyone from a different way. It's a great way to connect with others.
I love that. And I love that you're offering your new course on how to use Oracle cards yourself. Because would you speak to just for a minute, because I know both you and I have come from more religious background, and how what Oracle cards are, because sometimes the way we would have been raised is that it would have been taboo, or something stay away from. But speak to that for just a minute, because reassure people that this isn't some wild off in the bushes kind of activity.
Yeah, that's a great question, because I do get questions from people, because like a lot of people, like with the oracle cards, depending on the deck, sometimes it will refer to God, sometimes source, sometimes spirit, sometimes the universe, and or the divine, and it's all different languages for God. And that can be hard for some people to sit with. But really what I say with oracle cards is they're not telling you anything that you don't already know. They're not a predictor into this is what's going to happen with my life if I make this choice and go down this path, or predicting the future like 10 years down the road. I like to say it's drawing out the information that you already know deep within you,
Mhm.
and it's just bringing it to you in a different way, in a different light.
Yes.
And sometimes those messages do carry with you through the future, and you will see through time, it's like, oh, okay, I can see how that I like to say connect the dots.
Absolutely.
um but really they're a reflection of what it is that you already have deep within you.
I totally agree. And I'm glad you put it that way, because that's it. It's already in our spirit. It's just another way for our spirit to communicate with our mind, with our thoughts, and get our attention, and kind of pinpoint some of those little areas that might need a little tweaking, might need a little new perspective, because some of the messages that are on these oracle cards, it makes you start thinking that, oh, I guess I could think about it that way. Because I love how she also refers to it as it's openness, it's curiosity.
Yeah.
What if I thought this way rather than my old thinking? Would this help move me and advance me in my transformation of who I'm becoming? This beautiful, authentic person that I'm becoming. So I love that. And so you can find Robin's website at wanderingant.com. And she said to look up on her services tab that will list all these ways to be able to work with her. So do you have any closing wonderful words of wisdom you would like to leave with us before we close here?
Yeah, just I mean, we're starting, a new year, and I invite you to just be open to curiosity and exploration of what's showing up in your world. View it from that lens, kind of from the lens that a child would when they're playing with a new toy or they're outside and they see something that's like, oh, I saw a squirrel, like even that. Like look at everything with curiosity, and when you invite that into your life, then you will start receiving more of those deeper messages and deeper knowing within you. So that's what I would say is be curious, have fun.
I like that. Be curious, have fun, and ask.
And ask, yes.
We never receive if we don't ask. Just ask your inner being, do you have a message for me? Do you have something you could show me? Because you are able to receive these on your own, and just ask for little signs, and then be open, and like she said, looking curious, where might something show up? you know so I thank you, Robin, for being our guest today. I so appreciate you. I appreciate your work. Remember to find Robin at wanderingant.com. So thank you, everyone, for listening. I appreciate you. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast. And also, please visit our website, maryannpack.com, for all of our services. And remember that you are joy looking for a way to express.